Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. And in this video, I have a huge Comic Book Grail unboxing to do with you guys here today. I am very, very excited. This was actually a book on my wish list for 2022, so I am super happy to add this one to the collection here today. And then on top of the unboxing, I want to talk a little bit about, why I got this book, why I thought now was the time, how I'm starting to see some consolidation with some of the Grail books out there in the market, and a book that I'm also thinking about picking up later on this year that I will talk about at the end of the video. But before I get into the boxing, if you guys could drop me a like or a comment or subscribe if you're enjoying the content, helps support the channel, doing those things, I would appreciate it. But let us get into this video here today. And of course, we got to jump right into it and do the fun stuff. Now, obviously, like I mentioned in some of the other videos last week, we were talking about how I felt like now was going to be a good time to purchase a lot of good books and get a lot of deals out there in the market. And while it is possible that things might still be going down, this deal sort of presented itself, or I should say that I asked for this deal from a friend of the channel, Ryan over at Automatic Comic Books. He had this book right here. I knew that he had it up for sale, and I actually reached out to him personally and I said, hey, I don't know what your thoughts are on this book. Can you do this price range? I offered him a deal, and because he's such a good guy, he was able to honor that for me. And so I got this book at what I felt like is a very, very, competitive price, like a very good price that feels right for, how I kind of evaluate it when I look at all the metrics, when I think about the year that this book came out, and I just think about the character and how important he is, proving to be in the MCU. So I am super excited to add this book to the collection. I just got to take a moment here, guys, to look at this one. Yeah, this is pretty awesome. This is really, really cool. All right. Anyways, and without further ado, the book that I decided to pick up from Automatic Comics is this one right here, Journey into Mystery, number 85, first appearance of Loki. Now, this is a book that I had made mention in my video over Christmas break where I talked about, books I was targeting for 2022. And this was one of the ones that I really wanted to add in the collection because I really did feel like, Loki was a character that was, seemingly going to be one of the characters that the MCU kind of, the story goes through. And, I've always loved villains, and I really like that Loki is kind of becoming this like, almost like a anti-hero villain, like sort of in the way that Venom, I feel like was a villain to start in the comic books. And then over time, because of his popularity, they sort of transitioned him into a superhero. And I actually am wondering if Marvel Comic Books is going to start to do the same for this character here because of the fact that Tom Hiddleston is doing such an amazing job. Of course, the book I have is a CGC 3.0. It's got great colors on this book. I know that this copy right here obviously has a color break right down the middle of it, which is, definitely a knock to it. But the colors definitely present really well in this. And actually, this looks even better than what I thought it was going to look like in the picture. So I'm actually really happy about this copy overall. But going back to what I was saying, Loki, again, I think is going to be such an important character. They're already announced just a couple weeks ago that they were starting to get the plans in order to start filming Loki season 2 later on this summer. I really felt like now was a good time to pick this up, especially since, once they start to get those plans in motion where they're filming the show, there's going to start to be like images and leaks that start to come out. And it really felt like that would have been the start of people really starting to jump back onto this book. Now, of course, with all that being said, are we at the bottom for this book? We may not be because, we've been having a lot of conversation about the economy. I think that it's possible that, the recession will continue. So who really knows where this book is ultimately going to correct to? But, all that stuff aside, I really felt like this was probably a good time to jump back in on this book. One of the other things I really do like about this book, though, is how low of a census count there is for this one. Now, I'm sure you guys are aware, but this is a book that came out in 1962. And, the price values between 61 books to 62 to 63 to 64, outside of popularity of character, that has a huge role in the values of those books. And being that this is a 1962 book, I would actually make the argument, and I don't even know if I need to make the argument. I think this is actually factually true. This is the cheapest key first appearance of a 1962 book, meaning like all the characters that came out, Incredible Hulk, Thor, Spider-Man, Ant-Man, Doctor Doom, etc., etc., this particular book is the cheapest of those batch. Now, for good reason, Loki is not as big of a character as some of those other characters I just mentioned. But, when we think about like what this character can be and how they're really, really starting to, elevate themselves into the zeitgeist of comic books, the fact that this is a 62 book and that there's only, I don't know, 1,200 or 1,300 on the census gives me a lot of confidence that this book is going to be able to maintain some of its values. But let's take a look at some of the numbers together. I kind of want to show you guys some of the consolidation and what I mean by that when I'm looking at some of these books in the market, and why I sort of feel like what we are really seeing with a lot of these characters and how these books correct after the shows, it's really feeling like you can sort of play that janitor position where you always sweep up after the thing is done, and that's really a good time to get in on a book. So here we have, of course, Journey to Mystery 85. The book I picked up is, of course, this 3.0 grade. Fair market value suggests 2,600. 30-day moving is 28. The 1 year is 29. I forgot to mention that Ryan was able to give me a great deal on it. I bought this book for 2,600 shipped, which was basically right at fair market value, tied for the second lowest price, which is right there not too long ago, about a month ago. Not the absolute lowest price. I actually think that this 2,100 sale is the lowest price. But, when we look at the 30-day moving for this or the 90-day moving, it's 2,700. So it's under the GPA average. If I look at some of the other prices that people pay, here we see 2,800. I got it for 26, 2,700, 2,800, and then a bunch of $3,000 sales in the middle of last year when everyone was going nuts for the Loki TV show. So I felt like 2,600 was a very, very fair competitive price for this book. And you can really see like where the graph shoots up in the middle of summer of last year, and then it has its correction. And what I like to see here is that, we're sort of on the bounce back up again. And so that to me is like this feeling of, okay, we're sort of consolidating the price levels of some of these books. Similar, X-Men #4 is another big grail book that I picked up. And when I look at some of the grades, like the one I have, the 3.5 here, you can see the big spike up, then there was the correction, and now we're kind of going up and down, up and down, up and down. And it really feels like, yeah, there's sort of a consolidation process that is happening. The new floor is, at least for this current time period, really starting to solidify for a lot of these books. You can see here at the 4.0, same thing, big up, big down, and then a little bit of up and down, pinging back and forth. Similar here with the 4.5, a little bit up and down. So again, a lot of these books are really starting to stabilize overall, which I really, really like. And this is not only true of X-Men #4, which of course has relevancy to, what's going on with pop culture right now because of Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, but even when I look at a book like Tales of Suspense 57, where we see first Black Widow, a character that is done in the MCU, even when I look at her book, as far as like where the values are going, we're definitely starting to see that stabilization. Even though there's been some tumultuous ups and downs, we're starting to flatten off overall here at the 4.5 grade, again, some ups and downs, but we're still back on the upswing. So we're starting to stabilize here. Here's the GPA graph for this book at the 4.5 grade. Again, I like to look at the one that has the most sort of sales recently in the calendar year. And you can see, like, even though it had that big spike leading up to Black Widow, there was the correction after, but then it shot back up again. And there's been, a kind of a stability of sales overall, a couple 900s in here, but 1,000s here and there, which is lower than what it was. But, overall, it's looking pretty encouraging that even a book like, Tales of Suspense 52, that is the first appearance of Black Widow, that like, quote unquote, has no more relevance to the MCU. Even this book is starting to have that consolidation period. And so, at the beginning of the video, I mentioned a book that I was thinking about as far as like, picking up that dip or looking to figure out, okay, now that we're on the other side, playing janitor with this one. And this book right here, Tales of Suspense 57, first appearance of Hawkeye, I think that this is another book that, if you're out there and you're a fan of this character, now is the time to sort of pick up this book, because I really do feel like, Hawkeye, even though, they kind of wrapped up his story a little bit, maybe Jeremy Renner doesn't want to play the character as much anymore. I really do think that we're going to see more Jeremy Renner in the future. He's just going to take a little bit of a break, but all that aside, this is still a great book to have, an important character. And when we look at some of the values of this thing, I definitely feel like this book has had its big correction after the show. And now it's starting to, slowly level off once again. We look here, you can see like look at all the red on the 90-day moving average for this, like red all across the grade right here, right? But even with all that red, as we get here into the recent months, again, we're starting to see that consolidation window where it's, starting to flatten off overall. And that feels like a good time to, if you're someone who wants this book, to kind of look at some of those numbers, see how the graph is kind of flattening out. And then now if you're someone who really wants this, this can be like a good opportunity for you to decide if this is a good floor to buy back into it. So with Journey into Mystery, number 85, first appearance of Loki, I started to sort of see that, as far as like where the graph was. And I felt like, okay, $2,600. I think this is okay. I've done the comparison. It's cheaper than Strange Tales 110, a little more expensive than X-Men 4, 1962 book. I felt good at that price point in this window for this grade, and I decided to pull the trigger on it. So I am super, super happy to add this book to my collection here. Big shout out to Ryan over at Automatic Comics. Thank you so much for hooking me up here and for the good deal. And yeah, I got to get this book on the wall behind me. Anyways, that's all I got for this video. That was me showing off my new book. Drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and I will see you in the next one.